Hey, hi everyone. Like Yemi said, I'm Dr. Abdullahi. I'm a GPSC3 at Scotland, Southeast of Scotland program. So today, hopefully, we'll have a conversation around clinical case review entries, how best to use this as a learning tool for yourself and not just a task that you have to complete for your portfolio. And if you go about it, what's the best way to go about it such that it doesn't become a burden for us. Um, I think a very important question really for most ST1s is why these reflective entries in the first place? Why do we have to do them? And I think the answer to that is it's a wonderful learning tool. It's a wonderful learning tool that can help us glean some insight and knowledge from our day-to-day encounters in practice. And if we use it right, even after we've completed our training and we've come to understand what reflection really is, we will keep using it for the rest of our life, essentially, because, like I said, it's a learning tool, not just for the training, it's for life. So for those of you that have access to 14 Fish portfolio already, you will see at the bottom of learning logs. So you see where they say ESR preparation, you can see the capabilities on the left side and clinical experience on the right side. So these capabilities are what you'll be linking your clinical case review entries to, and the clinical experience with what you'll be linking them to as well. Clinical case reviews are patient encounters. So it's not something that you've gone to read something, for example, or you've had a lecture, you've had a tutorial, you wouldn't make an entry on the clinical case review. So clinical case review are actual patient encounters. And one of the first top tips about making a clinical case review is maybe to write it outside of your portfolio. You can open a Word page and just think about it in these 4 sort of paragraphs, in these 4 questions, and answer these 4 questions, each with 1 paragraph, then just transport those answers back into your portfolio. You see they fit nicely into the boxes in your portfolio. So the first question really is what happened? And if you see in your portfolio, there's a brief description of the event, right? So what happened? I want you to start picturing a pyramid. So we are at the very top, the sharp end of the pyramid, the top of the pyramid, with the first question of what happened. So you want to put enough details so that people follow what you're saying, but not too much details that the top of the pyramid shouldn't be heavier than the bottom of it, if you get my drift. Okay? So enough detail so that people get a gist of what you're talking about. Then the next question you need to answer from that encounter is, how did it make me feel? This, for a lot of trainees, find it difficult. And if you've had maybe 1 or 2 of your clinical case review entries reviewed by a supervisor, you would have seen them make emphasis about how you felt and what was going through your mind during the encounter. That's really important. That's really important. I will come to explain one of the benefits of why clinical case reflection in the next slide. So when we do that, you see why that is really important. So you answer that question, how did it make me feel? So you need to go into your feels with this question. How were you feeling? Were you feeling anxious, excited? Were you happy? Were you a bit timid? Were you scared? What was it? Okay, so the second best tip I'll give for this question really is, if you're struggling to emote or to find the words to describe the emotions you're feeling on at that point, you can Google the wheel of emotion, and it actually pops up a wheel, okay, with several emotions described and several emotions listed there. So it can help you find out, okay, this is the word that actually described the emotion I was feeling at that point. So you can talk from that and using that word to describe how you're feeling. Okay, that's quite helpful. Then the next question you need to ask yourself is, why did it make me feel that way? So now you're analyzing that encounter, right? Why did you feel that way? You met a patient, and the patient presented with something that you've seen for the first time, and because you've never seen that before, you're a bit scared of making a mistake in your diagnosis, for example. So why did you feel that way? It's because you didn't have the knowledge about this condition. You've never seen it before, right? So that's why you felt that way. So it's important to sort of highlight, tease out exactly why you're feeling that way for a particular case. All right. So when you've given a comprehensive answer to why did that make you feel that way, then the next step really is, what are you going to do about it? So you have these feels, you felt this way about this case. What are you going to do about it? Okay. Consequently, I went and I spoke to a colleague of mine. We had a chat about this case, and they suggested I go on Damnet and compare the picture or the images of this rash or lesion that I've seen, and finally I was able to make a diagnosis. So that was something you did about it. Or what you did about it is you decided that you're going to make it a personal development plan for yourself. You discovered a physician learning need, something that you were weak in, for example, female health, something to do with HRTs or menopause. So you decided, okay, I'm going to do a module on the TURAS platform, or I'm going to do a PBS-GL module on this, or I'm going to go on a day course on this particular thing, and I intend to learn this and this and that, so I can bring it back into my practice. So if you think of your clinical case review using these 4 questions, what happened? How did it make you feel? Why did it make you feel that way? What are you going to do about it? It makes it up a lot easier. Okay, so I'm rushing through this because I'm going to give a bit of time at the end so that people can just ask questions about the challenges they're having with their own portfolio and how we can help them here as well. So remember, I talked about it's really important to know why, because like I said, not just when you're in training, outside of training as well, you will continue to use this tool of reflection for the rest of your career, essentially. So it brings us to the Kolb's experiential learning circle, which essentially is the backbone of this reflective piece, essentially. So it states that knowledge sort of starts from concrete experience. So which in this case would be a patient encounter. You met a patient, something happened in that encounter, okay? Then you went back and thought about it, okay? You reflected on the experience using those sort of 4 questions we just talked about. So teasing it out, what was it about that case? What was it about that case? Oh, maybe the patient left unhappy. There was a patient unmet need. Patient did not get what they wanted. Okay, how should I have done things better? So now you learn from that experience, and hopefully you develop concepts and strategies for future encounters, right? That next time you meet something like this, because all of us, when you work in primary care, you see that you see tonsillitis. You see one person with tonsillitis, but one person's tonsillitis may not be the same with the other person's tonsillitis. It is all tonsillitis. But when we begin to tease out the fact that the impact the tonsillitis is having on this patient is different from the other patient, the social circumstance of this particular patient might be affecting things, the fact that maybe the parent is quite worried, very anxious, a lot of health anxiety there. So tonsillitis is simple, but it's not so simple at the end of the day because now patients are different. So, but when you practice reflective learning and you reflect a lot on your encounters with patients, you develop sort of strategies for handling things much better in the future. So this is a good example of how we continue to reflect even way late into our career, not just for our portfolio entries. Okay, so this is an email from Martin Marshall, the chair counsel for RCGP. Sent this back in 2022 to us. And if you look at this carefully, you will see that this follows exactly the same 4 questions that we just asked in the first slide, which is what happened, how did it make you feel, why did it make you feel that way, and what are you going to do about it? You can see here he's reflecting on a couple that he met in the 80s, and they had COVID, and so they've had a mild infection. So he goes over the details, giving you the sort of the background, the scenario. Yeah, the chap called Henry has some long-term conditions. He's increasing in feel. He was discharged notably and from hospital, and but he's diminished physically and psychologically. So now he goes into his field, like how he felt about this encounter, talking about how as GP, prime position to marvel at the immense capacity of the healthy human body, the body with physiological reserve. So he's thinking, he's gleaning some insight into this encounter, looking at this man and the circumstances around him going into hospital with COVID, his past medical history, and all of that. And he goes on to say in the fourth paragraph, the concept of physiological reserve can be applied to the NHS too. If we'd spared capacity in 2019, then we would have better cope with the direct impact of a pandemic. So you can see how he was finding a patient encounter with the concept called physiological reserve, and how that also plays into the NHS as well. So the more you understand this reflection and as a tool that you can use to sort of flesh out your ideas and perceptions about things, and the more you get benefit from it. And you can see he concludes by even, so what are you going to do about it? Sort of like a suggestion. I will encourage you to take a screenshot of this, have a read through. You see, this is what reflection outside of the portfolio looks like. And you can see that at the end of the day, we're just fulfilling all our tasks by making sure the thing tallies to one capability or not. But it is a very strong tool that we'll continue to use in this fight, even after our training years are finished. Okay, so if at the end of the last question, what are you going to do about it? If you decide you're going to do personal development plan, essentially, and what that means is you have to make it smart. I'm sure some of you have heard that term before, make it smart, make it smart. What they mean is you have to make it specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Oh, I'm going to go to a day course to learn about HRT in the next 2 months or the next 1 month, right? You made it time-based, you're specific what you want to learn, it's measurable, you're doing a day course. So, so part of what you do measurable is you can state in that your PDP that I'm going to do a day course in the next 1 month on HRTs and reflect on my learning from that course. So that's a very smart, very good personal development plan that has come from reflective entry. Not to say that all of your clinical case review entries should all end in PDPs. No, that's not what I'm saying. Some of it might end up in a personal development plan for yourself, which is good. If it doesn't, that's fine. Some of it you just end with, I plan to use this knowledge that I've gotten from this encounter in my future encounters with patients, yada, 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 something like that. That's it. So sorry for rushing through all of this, but in summary, top tip is think of your clinical case review entries in four paragraphs, essentially. What happened? Why did he, how did he make you feel? Why did he make you feel that way? What are you going to do about it? Okay. As for if you're having troubles getting the right words to explain how you feel, think about the wheel of emotions. Just do a Google search of that. You see that. That's quite helpful. And when you come to the last question, if you're going to generate a personal development plan based on that last question, you should try and make it smart. Okay. Right. So just open the floor now. Guys can ask questions and what challenges you're having with your portfolio as well.
Hi. Hi.
Yeah, just introduce yourself and go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, my name is Chema. So I'm wondering, with the clinical case reviews, after you've made the entries, and you've attached some capabilities, I've seen, well, I did a few, and I noticed that is the supervisor not supposed to comment by what you've attached? Is there is I mean, I've seen generally she makes a comment, like there's a comment section where she makes a comment, which is good. But then I was also expecting to see a comment or something by the side, where you've
For
put
which
your own
capability?
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Would that be towards ARCP or after ARCP, or can she, I mean, do I need to be expecting comments by that now or later?
All right. How many entries have you made so far? If you don't mind me asking.
Well, about 4 of them.
All of
Well,
them.
so
Okay.
so so what I noticed is
Yeah.
there are some that she also adds like another capability and comments by it.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
So I think it just boils down to different styles of different trainers. My trainer, for example, will put a comment on every capability that you linked. If he agrees with that, you say he has agreed, and this is the reason why he agrees. If he doesn't, you take it out. So I think it just boils down to the style of different trainers, essentially. But eventually, when you come towards your final ESR before your ACP, and
Mhm.
for each capability, um, each capability they will pass a comment. So that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. There's a question in the chat box from Noel about showing a sample clinical case review entry. It is not different from what I've just told you. I think the only reason I haven't shared it here is this is an open conversation, open group. There are issues around plagiarism, so you don't want people copying and all of that. So the RCGP actually frowns against something like that. So we wouldn't do that in an open book like this, unfortunately. Sorry.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Jovita, ST1.
Right.
If I understand, clinical case review is different from reflection, yeah? From that portfolio thing.
No, it's the same thing.
Is it? But I think the first thing there is CCR, and I think either the fourth or the 15 is reflection. So are they different, same? Don't know.
What do you mean different?
Like I know when you put in a clinical case review,
Yes.
then part of the subheadings you will get there is reflecting on this. You write, why you're reflecting on the scenario you didn't do. Then
All
are there
right.
also situations where you like reflect maybe wrong prescription maybe prescribing something on a wrong patient's page, or stuff like that? Like, are they different, or is it the same CCR that you also write such reflections? Or like when you make a mistake, or when you think you did something good, you want to have a positive reflection, is it on that same CCR that you write everything?
Yes, if it's
Okay.
from a patient encounter. Remember we said the CCR patient encounter, as long as it's a patient encounter, whatever you're reflecting on it is fine there. But if you've not had a patient encounter, you went to study on your own, you went to a tutorial, you did something else entirely, that should come under supporting documentation of stroke CPD.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So there was another question, Solanke, about how do we go about it. We'll have another lecture another day about quality improvement project, quality improvement activity. But for today, we're just focusing on clinical case review entries, reflection.
I have a question, please. My name is Taufika.
Hi.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask, what's the frequency, the expected of one to make entries in the portfolio, sort of like the CCR? Is that like a good number one should aim to do? And then is it advisable to do it on sort of a regular, like everyday basis, or just advice on how one should go about it, starting early, and what are the things sort of take into consideration and things like that?
Yeah, very good question, Taufika. Thank you very much for that. So you have, for every 6 months, you're expected to do 18 clinical case review entries. So ideally, they expect you to do an entry every week. So a minimum, they say sometimes 2 entries every week. But realistically, if you do 1 entry every week, you're good. 1 entry every week, and try as much as possible to do it regularly and not leave all of them to the end of the week of the month. Then you do 4 entries at the same time, right? Some trainers don't like that. So try and do 1 entry at least, 1 entry every week, at least. Okay, best 2 entries every week. Does that answer your question, Dr. Kat?
Yes, it does. It's just I have a rider to that. I mean, you would have seen several patients during, an average week.
Yes.
Is there any guide to sort of help you decide on which ones are important to reflect on your CCR?
Yes.
If it has to be varied, what kind of different sort of scenarios are you expected to reflect on? Sort of like, is it like per system?
Yeah. Very good question. Very good question. I was hoping somebody would ask that. So, your guide, okay, should be first, because remember, it's also a learning tool and it's also a tick box exercise. So, a learning tool for yourself is when you meet a good case that reveals a physician learning need. I talked about that slightly earlier on. Something that pricks your interest, okay, that you potentially want to learn more about. Okay, that's a good case to reflect about. Another one is a case that sort of exposes a patient unmet need. So patient needs unhappy or something happens, patient's needs were not completely met. That's another potential for reflection there. Then thirdly, another thing that helps you think of what to reflect on is when you look at the capabilities and you see the ones that you're not hitting. If you look at the capabilities, you can see that there are all three circles above each of them. So if you've reflected on fitness to practice, which is number 1, you've done maintaining ethical approach, which is number 2, you've done 3 there, and you're just doing you have 0 in community orientation, which is 13. So you need to be actively looking for encounters that will increase your entries for community orientation. Does that make sense? And when you make an entry, you're not restricted to linking just 1 capability. You can link 2 or 3 capabilities to 1 entry. The maximum is 3 capabilities you can link to 1 entry. Does that make sense? So those 3 things: physician unmet need, learning need, patients unmet need, and looking at your capabilities and saying, okay, what do I need to be targeting for? So this should help guide you as to what you should be reflecting on and what you shouldn't.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think,
you're welcome. I think we have capacity for maybe 1 or 2 more questions before we go on to the clinical class for today.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Basola, go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Farouk. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. And so 2 questions. The first one, the clinical case reviews, must it be reviewed by the educational supervisor, or can it be reviewed by your clinical supervisor? That's one.
Okay.
Then the second question would be the clinical experience group and the capabilities. Is it a must that it must be linked to your clinical case review, or from your supporting documentation on CPD, can you link it to the capabilities too and the clinical experience groups? Thank you.
Yeah, good questions. Thank you, Basola. So for the first question, yes, your entries should be reviewed by your educational supervisor, which usually will be your supervisor in your C3 practice, right? However, for those that are starting the first job in primary care, your clinical supervisor will also be a GP who might be a trainer. So your supervisor, who's your education supervisor, might say, oh, it's fine. You can just send the entries to your clinical supervisor to sign off. So a clinical supervisor, when you're in primary care post, can also sign it off for you, just as your education supervisor can sign off your clinical case review entry. I hope that's clear. Then the second question, for clinical case review entries, you can link them to the capabilities and clinical experience group, and for your supporting documentation and CPDs as well, you can also link the capabilities and clinical experience group to them. You will find actually that some capabilities are so difficult to fill just from clinical case review entry, because patient encounter, for example, might be very difficult for you to fill out fitness to practice and community orientation just from patient encounter. So usually how we make up for that is entries from supporting documentation through CPD, where we've also linked these capabilities and clinical experience groups too.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Chums?
Oh, yeah, his second question has actually answered my question about the linking of supporting documents to capabilities.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think if we have any further questions, we can post them on the group chat, and hopefully we'll be able to attend to those. To meet again another time. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, now, bye-bye.
All right. Before everyone goes, let me do this quick announcement. So in case you have any further, you want a private class with Dr. Farouk, kindly check the number on the chat. Let me drop it again so that we can arrange a session for you. That again. If you need any session, private class with him, yeah, on the chat, I just dropped the number on the chat. Just chat us, then we'll arrange a session for you. All right. And again, for everyone on EasyLearn, if you are on our package, please make sure that you attempt your mock. And again, your class starts in 1 minute. Okay. I think that's all for now. So till we meet again in the next class, it should be announced on our groups. Please join the WhatsApp group if you are not there, so that you can get up.